Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
PJ Walker led the Browns to a win over the 49ers. Yeah, this is not a drill. Also, what on earth is going on in Minnesota? And the Jets got in on the beating the unbeaten day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Without Deshaun Watson last week, the Browns looked dead in the water, which meant without their normal backup against the 49ers, Cleveland had no shot against the best team in the NFL or one of them. But never tell them the odds. They're like Han Solo. They come back to beat the San Francisco 49ers 19-17 on a Jake Moody missed field goal at the end of the game. They survive behind PJ Walker, who did not exactly wrap himself in glory in this game. Jeff Lloyd from Locked On Browns, who always wraps himself in glory, joins us now. And Jeff, this is a defense that played inspired football a week after we thought their defense might be able to carry them and couldn't. What was the difference this week?
It's actually funny because one of the things I highlighted about this game is, if you have a tough day against the San Francisco 49ers, you don't just lose a game, you usually get beat up. But Christian McCaffrey left the field today. Deebo Samuel left the field today. The Browns defense, and obviously it got a little chummy early in the day, obviously before the game even started. And the Browns defense basically wanted to get the statement out there that, hey, we are still who we think we are, even though, hey, look, the offense is struggling. Obviously, we're on our third quarterback in our fifth game. Certainly not an ideal situation. But they went at him all day long. And keep in mind, this was a game where Myles Garrett did not have a Myles Garrett type day. Yeah. Obviously two encroachment penalties. But I thought overall they were just hats to the football. And, the Niners got their chunk plays, but there was, first and 10, and then it was second and 10, or it was second and 9, a long 9. They grinded it out all day long. And one of the things that I also find impressive was they went at the receivers. Their coverage was great. This was probably the first time where Brock Purdy kind of looked a little ordinary because where he had to be kind of perfect on some of these balls, he wasn't. And I think because part of it is guys aren't just nearly as wide open as he has been used to. But they played 50 minutes, and then all of a sudden it got to 17-13. Then, 17-16. You put all the pressure on Purdy. I don't know what San Francisco was thinking. 2 and change to go. They basically come out, and what did they do? They threw 3 straight passes. Chewed no time off the clock. Browns did not use any of their timeouts. Put the Browns in a very advantageous situation. Obviously, the San Francisco 49ers offense perked up in that late seconds. And I sat there, watched it, and Peter, right in my head, I said, man, how many times have I said, oh, what a good effort today by the Cleveland Browns? And that ball usually goes through the uprights. But you know what? Eventually, the breaks beat the boys. And that was the case today for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, Brock Purdy, 12 of 27 with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 4.6 yards per attempt in this game. He didn't just look average or pedestrian. He looked pretty bad for a lot of the day. And a lot of that had to do, you mentioned the coverage. I thought Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was outstanding in this game. And so we saw this defense able to carry this team. If Deshaun Watson continues to miss games, and we don't know, it seemed like he was closer this week than he was last week, but we still don't know the status. This seems like it's going to be a dogfight in the AFC North the whole way. How far can this defense take this Cleveland team?
I think the key was, and look, the defense obviously did a really, really good job today, but a lot of the criticism Coach Stefanski received after the Baltimore Raven loss, and granted, look, DTR doesn't have the NFL experience. PJ Walker has some pretty good NFL experience. He's, had a 5-game run as a starter, of course, but a lot of the criticism coming out of that Raven game was that, Coach Stefanski was didn't commit to the run. And, Marlon Humphrey was just back. So trying to think he could throw the ball. And obviously, they still have faith in their offensive line, even though they're not playing the capabilities that they had been playing in years past. But today the commitment was there. They stuck with running the football. And even in the first half, Jerome Ford had some runs and it was like, look, kid, you got to stop going east and west, man. This is the NFL. You were not CJ2K. You cannot make these ad lib. Just find the hole. And then in the second half, he was getting the hole and trusting himself more and running at full speed. And guess what? That's when you get your broken tackles. That's when all of a sudden a 3-yard runs become a 7-yard run. An 8-yard run becomes a 14-yard run. That's been the key is, trying to stick with what they are on offense. And for me, and this is what I keep trying to tell all Browns fans is, look, if this is what the team can look like and play this hard, Deshaun Watson at worst is better than this. He's at worst better than what DTR did against the Baltimore Ravens, which is why I think this team can still be a truly legit contender. Granted, everybody in the AFC North is kind of playing well. Cincinnati's kind of righting the ship now that Joe Burrow can move around a little bit. Pittsburgh is surprised, in my opinion, at 3-2. Baltimore now at 4-2. But I think, we were getting the nervousness of, oh, man, did we just AFC West ourselves from 2022 with the AFC North? But I think for now, you're starting to see the AFC North is real. The problem is they're going to face each other, and there's going to be weeks where maybe a question is brought up about one team because somebody got the better of them. But overall, I have faith to where this product is, and I think Coach Stefanski, the play calling was fantastic today. There was an Njoku screen that should have been a touchdown. Obviously, it was called back by a penalty. There was another one later that was called back by a penalty. Coach Stefanski takes a lot of heat. I can see some of it at times. I don't see all of it. And of course, fans are going to fan. We all know that. And hey, you watch all you invest into it, you have every right to. But I think this team, and as good as they were in 2020 and all the strides they made in a crazy, wacky pandemic year, now it's the talent. And yes, did the coach have to rise to the talent? I think you're starting to see it today because he put together a really pretty good script today for a third string quarterback in PJ Walker.
Stay up to date all year on the Cleveland Browns by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Browns on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports today your first listen. Coming up, the Minnesota Vikings are one confusing football team right now. Before we get to why, the Bills were presented with a cakewalk of a Sunday night game. What did they do with it? Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Now's the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. The Monday night game features the Cowboys licking their wounds and traveling to LA to face the Chargers. FanDuel likes the boys to bounce back. Chargers 1.5-point home underdogs in this one. You can also combine bets within the same game to make even more money. Same game parlays are a great way to enjoy any game. So go get your $200 back in bonus bets, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills faced a depleted New York Giants team at home on Sunday night. So, of course, things went smoothly, right?
The Giants held the ball for 31 minutes, 24 seconds. They won the time of possession. They outgained the Buffalo Bills 317 to 297. But they were 0 for 5 in the red zone, 0 for 3 and goal to goal. They had that botched play, which I still don't know what the heck happened on that botched play at the end of the first half. There were some communication issues. I mean, what's up with this offense, man?
I said to my daughter, I said, if they run the ball with 8 seconds to go and they don't make it, they're gonna miss their opportunity here because they can't get relined up. And she goes, "Are they gonna run the ball?" I go, "Yeah." And they ran the ball.
The Jacksonville Jaguars won going away against the Indianapolis Colts.
Hi, I'm Tony Wiggins with the Locked On Jaguars podcast. The Jacksonville Jaguars win 37-20 at home versus the Indianapolis Colts on a day that saw them have the most balanced attack on offense and, once again, that stingy defense show up. It was really, for the most part, a complete game, with the exception of the fact that a little bit late in the game, things got a little bit sloppy. And then a little bit of a scare. Even right now, we have to figure out what's going on with Trevor Lawrence and his lower leg. It looked like he was limping a little bit. They were getting him a little bit of attention. But for the most part, this game was the the typical blueprint game that you wanted to see from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Take advantage of mistakes, get out in front, and allow your defense to chase the quarterback for the other team. And that's exactly what happened. The Jags improved to 4-2. You can catch me on the Locked On Jaguars podcast, where it's your team every day.
And the All-Texas ALCS got underway between the Astros and the Rangers.
Now, there were a lot of things that happened in this game. For a 2-0 game, it felt like it was incredibly eventful. And the thing that I had to start out with is Evan freaking Carter. Oh my goodness, this kid is unreal. What this kid is doing at this level, at this stage, with his level of experience. Just a month ago, it was maybe a little bit more than a month ago, he was called up to the big leagues for the first time. The little savior doing everything the Rangers have asked of him, and then some, defensively, offensively, on the base paths, in the locker room, in the media room, like whatever the Rangers are asking of this kid, he is delivering and over-delivering time and time again. And oh, by the way, yeah, he's just 21 years old. By the way, this was his first game against Houston Astros. Have yourself a freaking day.
The Minnesota Vikings won what I suppose you could characterize as a football game in Chicago, 19-13. Justin Fields knocked out in that one. But Minnesota, as Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings will tell you, incapable of having a normal season ever. Apparently,
no.
They win, but Justin Jefferson now on IR. Reports around Kirk Cousins and potential trades there say he's not going anywhere, but calling some other players, they might be open for business. Luke, what do you make of where the Vikings sit right now? They got their second win. That is an important thing for a lot of reasons, but what's going on in Minnesota right now?
Yeah, well, Kwesi Doffa-Mensah is always listening. When I see reports like that, they don't really change anything for me. You can always call Quinn. He's a traitor. Like, yeah, that's what he does. It's what he did on Wall Street. It's what he does here. So they'll always listen. Whether or not things will happen, I think requires extraordinary circumstances, was the Schefter report. I think that's a good way to put it. For Cousins, that's, another Jets situation, but on a good team. It's like a contending team loses their quarterback, that kind of thing. Jalen Hurts goes down, that kind of deal. Then we maybe think about it, but otherwise that won't happen. And the trade deadline's in 2 weeks anyways. So we're kind of running out of time on all these fronts, but hey, man, 2-4 with 49ers coming, then maybe they'll be 2-5. But then if you look at the schedule, it's, Broncos, it's Raiders, it's Packers, it's another Bears game. The middle part of the schedule is where, if the Vikings are going to go on a run, they will, but they got to play better than they played on this Sunday. I mean, this was a horrific game. This is not something that and the Vikings don't feel very good about it, the way that they've talked about it after the game. They're like, yeah, we made a whole bunch of mistakes, happy to get the win, but wow, we got work to do. I think that's the right attitude.
That does, and anyone listens to Locked On Vikings has heard from you that this is a team that is trying to rework what's going on in Minnesota. They want to be competitive, but they also have been quietly for the last year, maybe two, maybe not so quietly, again, if they've been listening to Locked On Vikings, trying to remake this roster. At what point is it, all right, Justin Jefferson not going to come back? Because part of the reporting is, well, maybe if their contract is not right, Justin Jefferson would just be done this year in Minnesota.
Yeah, that report feels really overblown, like really grasping at straws by someone's agent, I think, or somebody trying to Brandon Bean this and open up trade things, because I don't buy it at all. Justin Jefferson will not miss a football game that he is not literally like forbidden from entering. I think he might have gone out on Soldier Field if he could. Even though he's on IR, he might have just said, F the rules, I'm suiting up. He's that kind of competitor. And if you think about like the 3-year sort of rebuild, the phrase Kwesi uses is time horizon, which is very funny, but the 3-year plan. Well, look at what they've got now. They've got a first-round receiver, Jordan Addison. They've got a superstar, Justin Jefferson. They have an offensive line that's been built up, and the only guy that is left needing to be locked down is Christian Darrisaw. Maybe they'll keep Ezra Cleveland, but they've got an offensive line at least mostly worked together. This is a great spot for a young quarterback next year. Do you think they maybe plan on bringing one in? That's what they've been really building here. And the defense, they built one thing last year. They abandoned that. Now they're building a new thing. So that's probably going to take a little longer. And But hey, the defense did great against Justin Fields, so there's something working out there. A lot of disruption, but that's the plan. Is we want to be a good destination for a quarterback. We don't want him to get in and have what happened to Justin Fields in Chicago, which we kind of saw the results of that until he went out. Same habits getting exacerbated because you had to spend 2 years under pressure.
What is briefly here? What is the future then of Kirk Cousins? Could they be in a situation where, in order to not let him leave for nothing, they want to franchise tag him if he wants to leave? What are the options here?
I don't think that they would franchise tag him. I don't think that they have any qualms about letting him walk, especially with the way that he's played so far. I think he would have to play at a Super Bowl level, and we're not sniffing that. That said, they've left that door open, and right now in the building, the plan is, okay, we'll talk about this in February. Let's do the season and then we'll talk about it. But if I had to guess, I would guess he walks and it's a bidding war.
Stay up to date on the Minnesota Vikings by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Vikings on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Jets decided to hand the Eagles their first loss. We had a day in the NFL when Zach Wilson and the Jets, down their 2 starting corners, went in and beat the defending NFC champions. And it wasn't even the biggest upset of the day somehow. The Jets stunned the Eagles in a 20-14. I guess we're going to call it a thriller. Locked On Jets host John Butchko joins me now. And John, this New York team should not have had a chance in this game. They were heavy underdogs in this game, and yet they found a way to win. What did this game tell you about this New York team?
I don't think that this recipe is sustainable to win a lot of games. I don't think the Jets got enough out of their offense. I don't think you're going to get 4 turnovers no matter how good the defense is. And look, you got to give the Jets defense a lot of credit because, as you mentioned, they were down Sauce Gardner, they're down DJ Reed, they're down their 2 best corners, and corner is probably the biggest strength of this team. The way I look at it is, in the NFL, sometimes a couple of plays here or there can make or break your season. I've certainly seen this on the other end where there's Jet seasons that have fallen apart. Maybe there's one play like in a game in October and they don't make it and they lose a game and it just kind of sends them into a tailspin from which they never recover. As I was watching this game, I said in the fourth quarter, when the Jets were behind and it looked like they were going to lose, man, this is going to be a loss you look back on and say, maybe this is the thing that sets you back. Well, it's the opposite. And now the Jets are 3-3. And, even before the start of the season, this first 6 games looked like the toughest stretch on the schedule. Even when we thought Aaron Rodgers was going to be the quarterback, the general consensus was, if the Jets can make it through 3-3, this schedule really starts to open up. And that, if you look at the remaining teams on the schedule, that really has played out. So, I don't know that this is necessarily going to be the formula for the Jets. They got to get more out of their offense. But look, this game was in front of them to be taken, and they took it. And it doesn't matter how you get the win. This win will be on the standings for the rest of the season. And now they've beaten Buffalo and Philadelphia these first 6 weeks. So I think you got to be happy with how this turned out.
Yeah, when you first started talking about sustainability, I knew the but was coming. But the whole time in my head, I'm going, who cares? In a lot of ways, it doesn't matter if this is sustainable because you're all in this season. I know they lost Aaron Rodgers, but you're still trying to maximize this season. You don't want to have those conversations. Should they trade multiple picks to go try and get a Kirk Cousins? It is worth saying they beat the Bills and the Eagles, probably 2 of the 4 best teams in the league. And Zach Wilson played all of both of those games in essence. And so is it time to recalibrate what our expectations are of a Zach Wilson-led team? Because although Zach wasn't great in this game, he also didn't kill them in this game and made a couple key throws when they needed him to.
Yeah, look, there's no question. Zach Wilson is a better quarterback this year than he was last year. Last year, we saw a quarterback who there were times I don't think Zach Wilson could get to his first read a year ago. He could do that this year, and he could sometimes get to his second read. He's a raw quarterback. I mean, look, is he at a point where you feel good about him starting games? Maybe not. But Jets have a really good defense. Breece Hall looks like a star running back. I mean, even in a bad game, even if by his standards it was not a great game, he still put up 90 yards from scrimmage. Garrett Wilson is a number 1 receiver. And this defense, I mean, the Eagles left some plays on the field. But this defense went out there without their 2 best corners and gave the Eagles a lot of problems. So I think the thing you have to remember when we talk about playoff teams, and I hear people talk about this all the time. They say, "Oh, well, the Jets have holes here, there, and there," and they say, but you have to remember that to make the playoffs in the NFL these days, you just have to be the 7th best team in your conference. You have to be like slightly above average. You don't need to be a perfect team. And I think with the schedule, a lot of times it comes down to the schedule. A lot of the times it comes down to injury luck. And the Jets obviously have had their share of bad injury luck with losing their starting quarterback 4 plays into the season. But I look at this and I say, why can't the Jets make the playoffs right now?
Stay up to date all year on the New York Jets by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Jets on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. And finally, the entirety of the top 4 in the AP college football poll remained the same, with Georgia leading Michigan, Ohio State, and Florida State. Number 5 is the big change, though. The Washington Huskies will spend the week with their highest ranking in 6 years. After beating Oregon, Washington jumped over Penn State and Oklahoma to the 5th spot. Considering how done the Pac-12 is, it's crazy to see how good one of its current member institutions is playing right now. Thanks for making Locked On Sports today your first listen. Now go find your favorite team's Locked On podcast and make them your second listen. Coming up on tomorrow's Locked On Sports Today, who will win in the battle of Dak versus Herbert. So at least until tomorrow, stay Locked On Sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.